For more than a decade, a quiet schoolteacher walked among thousands of people in the Soviet Union, hiding a secret darker than anyone could imagine. Children disappeared. Bodies were found in forests and train stations. Police searched everywhere for a monster they called the Red Ripper. But the most terrifying part was this: the killer was hiding in plain sight. In the winter of 1978, a small Soviet town woke to a nightmare that no one could explain. Near a riverbank outside the city of Rostov-on-Don, the body of a young girl was discovered. She had been missing only a few days. When investigators arrived, the scene shocked even experienced officers. The crime was brutal, unthinkable, but what made it even more disturbing was the mystery behind it. There were no witnesses, no clear suspects, and no explanation for why someone would commit such a horrific act. At first, authorities believed it was an isolated crime. They were wrong, because the man responsible would go on to become one of the most terrifying serial killers in modern history. His name was Andrei Chikatilo, and the world would later know him as the Red Ripper. To understand how this nightmare began, we need to go back many years earlier. Andrei Chikatilo was born in 1936 in a small Ukrainian village during one of the darkest periods in Soviet history. His childhood was shaped by fear, poverty, and starvation. During the 1930s and 1940s, millions of people in the Soviet Union suffered from famine. Families struggled to survive, and stories of extreme desperation filled the countryside. Chikatilo's mother told him terrifying tales about the famine years, stories of people so hungry that they resorted to cannibalism. One story haunted him more than anything else. His mother claimed that before he was born, his older brother had been kidnapped, killed, and eaten by starving neighbors. Whether that story was true or not is still debated today, but for a young boy growing up in poverty and fear, those stories left deep scars. His childhood only grew darker when World War II reached their village. German forces invaded the region, bringing violence and chaos. Chikatilo's father was captured and taken prisoner during the war. When he eventually returned home, life did not get easier. In the Soviet Union at that time, prisoners of war were often treated as traitors. The family lived under shame and suspicion. Young Andrei grew up isolated, bullied, and withdrawn. He struggled in school and had almost no friends. But as he grew older, another problem began to shape his life in ways no one could see. Chikatilo suffered from severe sexual dysfunction. He was unable to form normal relationships. Humiliation and rejection followed him everywhere. Over time, those frustrations turned into dark fantasies, violent fantasies. By the time he reached adulthood, something inside him had already begun to break. In the 1960s, Chikatilo appeared to live a normal life. He married a woman named Feodosia. They had 2 children. He worked as a teacher and later as a factory worker. From the outside, he seemed quiet, awkward, but harmless. Yet inside, the disturbing fantasies continued to grow stronger. Eventually, those fantasies turned into something far more dangerous. In 1978, Chikatilo committed his first known murder. The victim was a 9-year-old girl named Yelena Zakotnova. He lured her near a river under the promise of buying her candy. But when she trusted him and followed, the encounter turned violent. After the attack, he left her body near the water. When police investigated the crime, they arrested another man. That man was later executed for the murder, but he was innocent. The real killer walked free, and that mistake would allow the nightmare to continue. For several years, there were no confirmed murders. But in 1981, the killings began again. This time, the bodies appeared near train stations, forests, and abandoned areas around Rostov. The victims were often young girls, boys, or women traveling alone. Each case was brutal. Investigators noticed disturbing patterns. Many victims had been mutilated. Some had multiple stab wounds. The violence was extreme, even by the standards of homicide investigators. Yet despite the growing number of victims, the police struggled to find the killer. Part of the problem was the Soviet system itself. At the time, authorities refused to believe that serial killers could exist in their society. Officials often claimed that serial murder was a problem of Western countries, not the Soviet Union. So instead of searching for one killer, police treated each murder as an isolated crime. This slowed the investigation and allowed Chikatilo to continue. Throughout the early 1980s, the body count continued to rise. Young victims disappeared from train stations. Runaways vanished from streets. Children walking home from school never arrived. Each time a body was discovered in a forest or field, investigators feared the worst, and often they were right. Fear spread through the region. Parents warned their children not to walk alone. Police increased patrols, but the killer always seemed one step ahead. In 1984, the investigation finally began to focus on the idea of a serial murderer. A special task force was created. Hundreds of officers worked day and night. They interviewed thousands of people. Psychologists were brought in to create one of the first criminal profiles used in Soviet investigations. The profile described a man who appeared ordinary, quiet, and socially awkward. Someone who could blend into the crowd without attracting attention. And that description matched Andrei Chikatilo perfectly. But no one knew it yet. That same year, police began monitoring train stations where many victims were last seen. Undercover officers watched suspicious behavior. Eventually, one man caught their attention. He was seen wandering around the station, approaching young people, and acting nervously. That man was Chikatilo. Police stopped him for questioning. But there was a problem. When they tested his blood type, it did not match the biological evidence found at crime scenes. So investigators released him. It was a critical mistake, because Chikatilo actually had a rare medical condition where his blood type appeared different in certain tests. If that detail had been understood earlier, the case might have ended years sooner. Instead, the killings continued. Between 1985 and 1990, more victims were discovered across forests and fields near Rostov. Each crime shocked investigators. Each discovery brought renewed pressure to catch the killer. By now, the media had begun to speak about the mysterious murderer. The nickname, the Red Ripper, began to spread, and fear across the region reached its peak. People avoided traveling alone. Parents walked their children to school. Police checkpoints appeared across entire districts. But still, the killer remained free. Everything changed in 1990. One evening, police officers near a train station noticed a suspicious man leaving a forest area. He looked nervous and had scratches on his face. When they questioned him, his answers were strange and inconsistent. The officers wrote down his name, and once again, that name was Andrei Chikatilo. Investigators looked back through old files. They realized he had been questioned before. They began following him closely. Soon they discovered even more suspicious behavior. Finally, in November 1990, Chikatilo was arrested. At first, he denied everything, but investigators used psychological tactics during interrogation. Eventually, the quiet schoolteacher began to talk, and when he spoke, the truth shocked everyone in the room. Chikatilo confessed to dozens of murders, not one, not five, but over 50 victims. The investigators could hardly believe it. They spent months verifying the locations he described. Each time they searched a new area, they found evidence that confirmed his confessions. The nightmare was real. In 1992, the trial of Andrei Chikatilo began. The courtroom was packed with journalists, families of victims, and investigators who had spent years hunting the killer. But the man sitting behind the glass cage looked nothing like the monster people imagined. He appeared thin, nervous, and ordinary. During the trial, prosecutors described the horrifying details of his crimes. Witnesses spoke about the long years of fear. Families demanded justice. Chikatilo sometimes laughed during the proceedings. Other times he shouted strange statements. His behavior disturbed everyone watching. After months of testimony, the verdict was clear. Chikatilo was found guilty of 52 murders. In 1994, he was executed by a single gunshot. The case of Andrei Chikatilo remains one of the most disturbing serial killer cases in history. For over a decade, he moved through cities, train stations, and neighborhoods without anyone realizing the truth. A quiet man hiding unimaginable darkness, a killer who blended into everyday life, and a reminder of something deeply unsettling. Sometimes the most terrifying monsters are not the ones hiding in the shadows, but the ones standing quietly in the crowd.